All right, welcome to the last day of March, but we still got plenty of madness going on as we get ready for the Final Four. Plenty of Major League Baseball down to the wire in the NBA as well as the NHL regular seasons, and who better to help us navigate through it all as our man is back, Mr. Art DeCesar, ready to roll. Still no Prez here out on the slopes. I don't know what's going on there, Art. I don't know if he got Sonny Bono'd or what he's doing, but he is.
Whoa.
I'm just saying, watch out for that tree there, Prez. But hopefully he'll pop in again at some point this week. In the meantime, we got a lot going on here in the world of sports. Kind of crunch time as we close out, can you believe, the end of March. But how did you do? I mean, let's start over the weekend, man. It was obviously Duke and UConn was crazy, but how did the books end up doing when it was all said and done?
When it was all said and done, it's been a very positive NCAA tournament for us. We've had rarely any losing days. I want to say that first Saturday of the first four, or, the first weekend was like our worst day, and it wasn't even that bad of a day. And now, too, we sit in really good positions with the futures. We win on 3 teams, we lose on 1. Illinois is the 1 team we lose on. So when you have 3 out of the 4, and we do extremely well on Michigan and UConn. Arizona's good too, but if we can get Michigan or UConn to get home, we could get them to play in the final. We know we're booking a final where the future book, we got a lot of money kind of not to burn, but we're just working with a really net positive before we start really booking this game. It's just a really good position to be in.
Yeah, there's worse positions to be in here, but it was a fun one. The Final Four is going to be a lot of fun. How was the first weekend of Major League Baseball there, Art, at the book?
It was slow, Joe, and I don't know if it was because, this is the earliest I can remember us ever starting. I mean, opening night was March 25th, and then you had some games the next day, and, we're not even in April yet, and obviously every team's played like 4 or 5 games. I think, people are just maybe not realizing, wait, hold on, we're a week into this baseball season, so It's been a lot slower than I can remember. I'm not saying we're not taking bets, because we are, but I'll say this, the sharp guys haven't really kind of poked their head out yet. Now, it's possible a lot of the people who, we book to the sharp guys, they're waiting for, 2 weeks of data or whatever it may be, see how this ABS affects things. So it's possible that that's part of it. But listen, baseball is one of those sports that, because it's every day, there's so many games every day, it's a big thing for the parlay bettors. Baseball is such a parlay, sport for the guys who are in it day in and day out, who want to bet 20, 40, 50 bucks, and then just do it day in and day out. So baseball is good from that standpoint for us.
Oh yeah, it's a grind, that's for sure.
Yep.
You also have, I mean, we're wrapping up the NHL season as well as the NBA season. What are you seeing now as far as the markets go with both those? Obviously, the 17, 18-point spreads in the NBA are hilarious this time of year. But how about with the NHL or NBA? You starting to see handle down? Or you starting to gear up for the postseason?
I think in the NBA, it's different because you mentioned there's so many big spreads every day, and basically all the teams are accounted for. We know the 10 teams in each conference in the NBA. Now it's just kind of jockeying for position here or there. I think people are just kind of, hey, let's let these, this last 10 days, because I want to say NBA ends April 12th, which is a Sunday. So people are just like, hey, let's get to these playoffs. It's more that NHL is a little different because there's still a lot at stake playoff-wise. So people zero in on the big games. Like the Islander-Penguin game last night took pretty good handle because that was a huge game in the Eastern Conference. A huge game for both teams for playoff position. Obviously, the local Knights, they just made the firing of their coach Cassidy, brought in Tortorella. Now, listen, they were a minus 350 favorite. But, you saw a little bit of love there on the puck line for them to win in regulation, the fired coach angle. So people were looking to bet the Knights that way. So definitely more action right now in the NHL than the NBA.
Well, I mean, because we got legit tanking teams. It's very hard to handicap tanking teams at this point. So, but you guys have done a great job at the books of, it's got to be impossible in that back room, Art, and be like, all right, let's see. Washington has no intentions of winning a game. The Bulls are actually sitting guys in the fourth quarter. It's got to be impossible to even try to come up with numbers here at this point.
Yeah, it's really hard. I mean, obviously, the first way you look at it is you probably can't make the numbers high enough
Yes.
on these big favorites. And I had mentioned to you guys a couple of weeks ago, the only way they bet these dogs is they might take a $10 or $20 shot on a money line.
That's it.
I mean, yeah, they're not taking plus 18 and a half.
Yep.
They're saying, okay, you're going to give me 12 to 1. I'll put $20 on it.
Yep.
And then you see the opposite of it. You take the 4 or 5 biggest favorites of the day who are all, let's say, 12, 14 plus points, and they just money line parlay them. Try to get to as close as even money on those big favorites. Maybe throw a baseball game in there, maybe throw an NHL game in there, and they try to bet a big parlay that way.
Crazy. It's just, yeah. But listen, like you said, final couple of weeks here of the regular season, the NBA. It's really, I mean, Miami wins last night, so Miami is clinched into the play-in situation. So there's not really a whole lot of intrigue as far as who's going to be playing in. It's kind of the jockeying for position and setting yourself up. I mean, obviously being a 7 seed is better than being a 10 seed. So, and that's kind of what we have here tonight across the board. So talk to me first and foremost about some of these games tonight as far as the sharp action goes. Are you seeing guys coming to the window back in the Knicks and Houston? I mean, there's a game separating the 5th seed from the 8th seed. So, Toronto needs to win these games. You've got a pretty big one between Portland and the Clippers tonight. What kind of action are you seeing in the NBA as far as sharp action goes?
Right now, the only sharp bet to report is the over in the Hornets game. They took over 217. We're now 219 and a half. Rarely do you see the sharp. Yeah, and rarely do you see these sharps bet the overs. They're normally betting unders. I feel like every time I give out an NBA total and it's sharp, 90% of the time it's an under for us. And, it's funny because I can only speak to what happens with us. Sometimes I get roasted on Twitter like, oh, well, that's not the sharp side. That's not the public side. I'm like, dude, I'm just giving you the information from the Westgate. I can't talk about every other sports book. I can just see what I'm seeing. So for us, we actually have a little bit of public money on the Rockets and actually a little bit of public money on the Cavs today. So right now, that's some public stuff for us.
Yes. And again, what you're going to get at the Westgate, percentage-wise, handle-wise, ticket-wise, is going to be different than what you're going to get at a DraftKings or a FanDuel or a Penny or one of so it's just it all depends on who's booking the action and where it's coming from, because there's a reason why the FanDuels and the DraftKings over there, we always scratch our head with those lines. It's because it's not hard to figure out where the public is heading in those spots. What about the NHL? It's a full card here tonight. You mentioned a lot still to be determined there. Any sharp action early with the NHL tonight?
Yeah, absolutely. We took a bunch of sharp money overnight and this morning. Stars saw money, Hurricanes saw money, and then Prez's Jets, they're right there. I mean, there's not many games left, but Winnipeg, they can make a move here because those bottom West teams, none of them seem to want to win. And, obviously we said the Knights just made the big move with their coach, but the Jets saw money as well. So those three who were pretty good size favorites, but you've seen like 10 to 15 cent moves on them becoming even bigger favorites today.
All right, you got those. Now let's turn our attention to Major League Baseball, Art, as good news, by the way. It looks like DeGrom has been named the starter against Baltimore here today. So anybody thinking it maybe, he was a late scratch over the weekend there. He was supposed to open up, but he was a late scratch. But it looks like he is going against Eflin here today. Any early Major League Baseball sharp action you're seeing today?
Absolutely. The sharp action is we saw Pirates Reds over money from 8.5 to 9. We saw D-backs money at home versus the Tigers. They were basically like a small dog. They were like, minus 102. Now we're minus 112 on them. So we've seen a 10-cent move there. We've seen a little bit of Marlin money. And that's kind of just been public money, to be honest with you. Shocking to see public money on the Marlins. But, that can happen here. So a little bit of public money on the Marlins. And I will say this, one of our biggest house players came in and put down two big 5-figure bets on the Mets today, money line and run line.
Interesting.
So we're going to be big Cardinal fans today because he's got a lot invested here in the Mets today.
Senga versus Palante there in that one. And I can tell you this, it didn't take me too long to figure out. When you're playing the White Sox and they're throwing Eric Fetty, you and I might get money. The Marlins getting money, not a shock against Fetty and the White Sox. But the White Sox beat them pretty good yesterday, scored a whole bunch of runs. Yeah. So Marlins might be on their way back here. Listen, I could not believe the Guardians off a Sunday night beatdown had to travel to L.A., and boy, they took it to the Dodgers last night. There's not one undefeated team left here, Art, in Major League Baseball. Everyone's got an L now across the board.
Yeah, and listen, not like it was a huge trouble, but that's always an angle.
Yep.
Sunday night team who has to travel and, play the next day on the road. That's always like a good angle. You can kind of fade those teams, but obviously, always been. Obviously, Cleveland didn't, keep up their end of the bargain. But listen, we've joked, we joked earlier, I think last week, about how we're going to be fighting Dodger run line money all year. And, they've won a bunch of games, and they've won them by like one run. So, the Dodgers not covering these run lines has been good to us. We always realize Dodgers are going to be very prevalent in money line parlays, as the Yankees are, and, some of these other popular teams. But yeah, I mean, listen, it's hard for people to want to go lay $3 with the Dodgers. It's just they try to find other ways to bet them.
Hunter Brown going tonight for the Astros. Ohtani will be on the mound for those Dodgers here tonight against Tanner Bybee, who was just announced. But again, you're still laying 250, especially with Ohtani out there. So it'll be interesting how much money line, run line action you get here today on the Dodgers late night with that one. Yankees off a 2-1 loss, Fried against Gilbert tonight. 2 number ones in that spot there. But lowest total on the board, I think, as well here tonight. They are with one of the late games there with the Yankees and Seattle. Would have cashed last night.
Well, if it's as cold as it was last night, it's going to be tonight. Those players look freezing last night in the Yankee game. I mean, they looked miserable. And I think they only maybe had like 10 or 11 combined hits, scored the 3 runs. Obviously, you got 2 of the big pitchers pitching in that game. When the Yankees are basically around a pick, like they were yesterday and they are today, we're going to see tremendous Yankee money. So we'll be rooting for the Mariners like we were last night.
And, of course, plenty of baseball, but the initial thoughts on the Final Four here. I mean, we've seen, I think everybody and their mother thought pick'em price range for Michigan and Arizona. Slight Michigan favorite here, but again, really depends on where you're looking. But it looks like Illinois. Did you get, a little more Illinois money than any place else off the start here, Art?
We opened Illinois too. We opened a total of 140.5. We've seen some under money. We're now 139.5. But our initial money was Illinois. We went to 2.5, and then we saw pretty good UConn money come in. So now we're back to 2. That game's seen really good two-way action. When you get to the big game, and listen, they're both great games, but obviously Michigan, Arizona just has more of a feel of maybe one of the great games ever. We felt comfortable saying, hey, let's open Michigan pick. That game pick, because that's what we thought the game was. That's kind of what the power ratings show as well. And then you saw all these other places start to go up, and there were a lot of people starting Michigan 1.
Yeah.
And we're now Michigan 2, and we didn't really get hit. It's not like people came and said, hey, give me Michigan pick, give me Michigan 1. We kind of wanted to be ahead of it and say, hey, if everyone's going to sit at 1, 1.5, we go to 2, is someone going to bet us Arizona 2? Hasn't happened yet. Someone going to take Arizona plus 110 on the money line. Hasn't happened yet. Now, obviously, we're a week out on this. We got plenty of time for this to kind of work itself out. But, Michigan being 2, that's probably where it should be, because we haven't had anyone respected come on the other side. Total, we were 156.5. I believe we went up to 157.5. So seeing a little bit of move on the over there. But that's just kind of moving with the market. Nothing really sharp. So I would say right now, as the Final Four goes, We haven't seen anything sharp yet. It's just kind of been moving with the market, or taking bets on both sides with the Illinois UConn game. Yep.
So you have in your neck of the woods beginning tomorrow too the Crown Tournament, where we got you still hard to believe still got some college basketball going on here. So Oklahoma, Colorado, Baylor, Minnesota. Are you seeing any sort of push there? I mean, let's face it, the NIT is also the semifinals coming up on Thursday this week. Any action in those markets?
The thing I'll say about those two tournaments, it might just be more daily stuff. I mean,
Gotcha.
The Oklahoma line did move. I think we were 7.5. We're now 8.5. So we saw a little bit of Oklahoma money come in. But yeah, I think that's also going to get lost in the shuffle a little bit here too.
Yep.
It's such a great Final Four. People are going to kind of wake up and realize, oh wait, there's games. I mean, the Crown's tomorrow, right?
I know.
I mean,
yep.
Yeah, so
in Vegas.
I mean, and listen, exactly, in Vegas. So I think it's more going to be like when I come on, whatever day it may be, like tomorrow, and it's like, okay, we saw some stuff move in the morning. I think that's more going to be the type of action we're going to take.
So last night, Art, it's so funny, the parallels between the women's tournament and the men's tournament right now. You got the same exact Final Four that you had a year ago on the women's side. 4 number ones. Though UConn was not a number, people forgot they won the national championship last year with Paige Beckers. They were not a number 1 seed. Yeah. They were a number 2 seed. But all 4, UCLA, Texas, South Carolina, UConn, watching these games, Art, and if you watched any of the Texas and South Carolina last night, it's like they're playing a different game than the rest of the team. I mean, there is a clear... Those top 4 and everybody else here, what kind of action do you get or are you anticipating on the women's side? Anything? All UConn? I don't know how you could be all UConn, though, because they're all, tremendous.
It's funny, UConn, and I don't want to say we were smart, but we got on them early with the future book and said, listen, we're going to force you to bet everybody else. We're going to book this thing early to have UConn as a crazy minus price to win the national championship. Yep. So basically we lose on all 3 of the teams, but we win on UConn.
UConn, which and you're futures. Okay with that. It's worth
which
rolling the
dice.
We're
fine with, of course. And listen, are you going to lose the massive amount of money you would lose on like an Illinois in the men's? Of course not. The future book in the women's clearly doesn't do even a 1/10 of what the men's does, a 1/4 of what the men's does. So we're fine being in a position where, hey, if UConn wins, we scoop the pot.
Good.
I do think, though, with these 4 teams, and they've clearly been the best 4 teams all year, I think we'll see some action. The one thing you notice is, I forget who it was. Was UCLA playing Duke to go to the Final Four?
Yes, that was a good one, too. Yes.
They were down like 8 at the half, and then, you're booking that second half, and you're like, all right, what do we open this at? So we open it like UCLA 11 and a half. Yep. Now you see people taking the other side, and UCLA came back and ended up covering the original game number.
Yep.
Which was 11 and a half. I mean, we closed 13, but you notice that too. If any of these teams are down at the half, bet them in the second half. Now, it's a little different in the Final Four because you got all 1 seeds, but I think we'll see some action on it for sure.
Yeah, and I don't think they're going to be out of... Again, if you watched any of those 4 remaining women's side number 1s play, they're playing a different game than everything else that we've seen. And a lot of those players were all part of the same run. They play together for 2-3 years, 4 years, Art. It's a whole different ball game here. But I would imagine the second half booking with Duke and UConn was interesting as well on Sunday.
Oh yeah, and I mean, think about all the in-game prices too. That people, you get these guys who chase the winners.
Yes,
and they just throughout the game go, oh, well, Duke's up 10. I'm going to keep laying the money line. It doesn't matter. It's just free money. Yep. They are winning, so I'm just going to keep betting it. They get up almost 20. They're up 15 at the half, and you see those type of bettors. Yep. They do it in baseball. Team goes up early 1-0. All right, I got the lead. I don't care. I'll lay 250. Let's go. They got the lead. Boom, boom, boom. So I mean, when anytime a favorite of that magnitude in game happens, they're 10, 15, almost 20 points. It's really good for us because people are always like, oh, well, there must have been a lot of people who took UConn. No. Not
No,
really.
no.
They just, they don't find the
Nope.
value in taking it. Listen, maybe there's a guy who puts $10 on it, but it's not the guys who are willing to lay $5 on Duke to get their
Nope.
nickel.
No.
It's totally different with the in-game betting.
Totally different ball game. Plus, I mean, listen, at one point, 16 and a half, 17 and a half is what you could have got with UConn there. I mean, it looked bleak, and it didn't look like they were going to shoot a three or make a three at any point. But, championship pedigree matters here. So great stuff. Should be a lot of fun to watch it all unfold this week. In the meantime, Art, of course, we do have to come up with a two-teamer here tonight. We've got a full board everywhere here. NBA, NHL, Major League Baseball. Where are you thinking about looking on the board here tonight?
I normally don't like to lay a run and a half, but I feel like the Phillies need something tonight.
Oof.
I'm going to lay a run and a half with the Phillies. I know team doesn't look good. Fans were getting on him last night. Manager looked like he was going to implode. But I think the Phillies are going to come out to play tonight. I'm going to lay the 1.5 with the Phillies.
Yeah, what in the hell was that, Phil? You're letting the Nats punk you in just the ultimate, Taijuan
Walker's
Walker,
awful.
yeah, he's awful. The guy's throwing batting practice.
He's awful.
Like,
Oof.
stop it. Like, that's just, that's terrible on so many different levels there. All right, I'll go to the NBA here tonight, Art, and I kind of like this spot a lot for the Lakers. You got the Cavs coming off a game in Utah in the altitude. It wouldn't shock me if maybe one or two guys takes a rest here. Jared Allen didn't play last night for the Cavs, but it's not a primetime game. It's on at 10:40, so it's not going to be one of those situations where, like everyone's got to play because NBC's covering it. But the Lakers didn't have Doncic last night, and they didn't need a whole lot to beat the Wizards here at home. Luka pissed off. He got his 16th technical. Wouldn't shock me if the Lakers show up in a big way at home here tonight. Both teams on the second of a back-to-back, but I think maybe the Lakers are the right side at that price here tonight. And as far as the predictive markets go, we were talking before the show, Art, about some of these markets. And, speaking of the NBA, we took a look here at the championship market, and I just don't know there's that much separating San Antonio and OKC. But in this market, it sure as hell looks it, doesn't it? I mean, we're talking almost a 40 cents to Oklahoma. So Oklahoma City, according to the prediction markets, feel there's a 40% chance Oklahoma City is going to win a and you mean to tell me that San Antonio only has half that shot to do it? I don't know, man. I think Oklahoma City and San Antonio are a heck of a lot closer than what the market right now thinks they're going to be here.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, I remember, we probably talked 4, 5, 6 weeks ago where we thought, hey, well, maybe Denver can sneak in there. Well, Denver, yes. I think Denver's done. But now I think you really do look at the West as a 2-horse race. And I know it's different beating people in the regular season, but the Spurs had a lot of success with OKC.
Yep.
So, I mean, you look at it like that, and I know it's a different beast playing in the playoffs, and OKC's been there, but you're right. I think when you look at the Spurs, you look at the Thunder, whoever comes out of the West is going to win the NBA championship. And the Spurs are close enough where they could still maybe get that 1 seed.
Yes,
they have the tiebreaker. They have a shot to get that. They can get home court for that young team. It's just going to be one of those things where you won't have to play a game 7 in OKC if you get the 1 seed. Tough place to play. So I'm with you. Obviously, the value, there's no value on OKC. There hasn't been value on OKC all year. Clearly, the value were on other teams like Denver and San Antonio. And even though you probably missed all your value on San Antonio, there's probably still a little bit left.
Yep.
I mean, you could probably squeeze a little bit left out of San Antonio because you're going to get one of the 2 best teams who enter the playoffs to win the title.
And the beauty part of this is I don't really need San Antonio. Nope. I don't need them to win the championship. I really, if I'm buying in at 18 cents, all right, I just need them to get to the Western Conference Finals. They're either going to be the 1 or 2 seed, so likely it's going to be OKC versus San Antonio. And as long as that happens, I'm going to get way more than 18 cents by the time we get to the Western Conference Finals here. And that's the kind of adjustment. And that's really what we're banking on in these kinds of markets is that, hey, I'm betting for the future. Like, I just need Boston to do their thing and get to the Eastern Conference Finals. And if that's the case, at 14 cents right now, yeah, I'm talking about 2.5, 3x my initial investment here by the time we get to that. Not that I'm saying the East is going to win, but we don't need them to win.
No.
We just need them to be better than the 14 cents that you can get them at right now. Great win by Atlanta last night, by the way, but it still feels they didn't have Tatum last night. Still feels like, are they the team to beat in the East here, Art, is the real question.
Well, I mean, you look at the four teams, right, which obviously would be Boston, Cleveland, New York, and Detroit. I mean, Detroit, obviously, they've gotten killed with, the Cunningham injury. It's hard to trust the Knicks. I don't know. There's something off about this Knicks team. I never want to trust the Cavs either, but I think if you were going to take a shot on a team who's not Boston, it would probably have to be Cleveland. I wouldn't feel great about it, but like you mentioned with the Spurs, all you need with Boston is get to the Eastern Conference Final, or hey, get to the NBA Finals.
That's
and
it.
then I'm just out. I could just move on. So yeah, I mean, Boston clearly should be the favorite. And I remember talking over a month ago too, how hey, we went to Boston as a favorite, and we feel comfortable with it because they should be the favorite. They were getting Tatum back, and Boston always takes money. So we put ourselves in a position where let's get ahead of this early and not be, dragging our feet on Boston because they're going to take money.
36 cents currently right now to win the Eastern Conference. And you mentioned Cleveland. I mean, is New York, are we giving them, listen, Philadelphia pissed me off last night. I mean, how you can be the rested team, go into Miami and, allow a 14-0 run at the end of the game is beyond me to a team that was just basically collapsing in front of you and you gave them life. But I don't know. They're fully healthy. I mean, it's something else watching.
They are.
Paul George, Embiid, Maxey, and Edge, all of those guys out on the court at the same time. That's a interesting team in a short series.
They certainly have the talent. They have a championship coach. I mean, I don't know. And I never loved Paul George, but he's come back and played pretty well. Obviously, they have that dynamic backcourt. Yeah, no, and they have the dynamic young backcourt, and you could always throw it into Embiid and get a bucket. I just don't know. I don't know if it's they're gonna have enough time to really put it together, and then you're gonna ask them to go win series after series after series. But I mean, if you're taking a long shot, yeah, I mean the Sixers would be. I mean, I think Philly and Atlanta would be the two teams you would look at outside of the big four. I mean, I'm not breaking any news there, but those would be the teams if you wanted to take a shot.
Right. And Charlotte is one of those teams that's going to be coming out of they're going to be coming out of the play-in. And listen, I wouldn't exactly be thrilled to play them either. No. But you know what I mean? But that's going to be interesting to see how that works out. And, seeding is going to matter here. And with a 4-game lead right now, Detroit with 7, 8 games left to go in the season, and they sat everybody last night. I don't know if they're sitting anybody here tonight, but yikes. Detroit's just like, we're good at this point. Let's just get us to the finish line. And I don't know. I mean, Cade Cunningham, they're hoping to get him back. I don't know if they're going to get him back in time. Yeah,
exactly. You can't count on that. And,
collapse lung.
That feels like season over to me, but these guys are obviously professional athletes and come back. I mean, no one thought Tatum was going to play this year, and look at him, he's playing. So,
correct.
So, I mean, I get the different injuries, but these guys recover in different ways than us normal people. But I wouldn't feel great about having the Pistons. I just wouldn't.
Nope, I would not in any way, shape, or form either there, Art. So some interesting markets that we have in front of us here and a couple of different ways to approach it. Still think there's some value there. Has your mind changed at all in the NHL, Art? Are we still, is it Colorado and Tampa's world and we're all just looking to fit in it? Or are you going a little further down the board these days in the NHL for a Stanley Cup Finals?
I mean, in the West, when we talked and we started doing this, I thought there was value in the Knights. I don't feel that way anymore. And, listen, they could turn it around, but when you fire your coach this late, bring in an outsider like Tortorella, who's there to obviously light a fire under the Knights' asses because they've played so poorly. And listen, they won last night at home, but they beat the worst team in the league. You're supposed to win those type of games. Colorado obviously is the favorite, and they should be. I think those other teams in the Central are dangerous. When you talk about Dallas and you talk about Minnesota, I think the East is more interesting. I get that Tampa and Carolina are up there, and they should be. And then you really drop off to that third choice, which is Buffalo. But Buffalo, to me, is the team that could really, upset it here and come out of the East. I know Prez and I were talking about them a while back, and we feel, I got an 18-1 East ticket on Buffalo.
Oh,
I mean, I love the Sabres. I think they have a real chance. Obviously, Tampa's been dealing with injuries, and Carolina never seems to break through in these playoffs. They're always good. They always win the division. They always crap out in the second round, or they make the Eastern Conference Final and they can't score a goal. So I think the value in the East is still Buffalo. And I think if you're just looking to fade Colorado in the West, you got to look at those other Central teams, whether it be Dallas or Minnesota, because Colorado's going to have to go through a gauntlet just to get to the Western Finals.
It's fascinating that Colorado and Tampa is still the top there. 23 and 15 cents right now with Colorado and Tampa. And Carolina is right there at 13 cents. And like you said, it's either going to be Carolina or Tampa. Is that fair? Representing the East, and likely going to be Colorado and or Dallas? Or is there somebody in Minnesota? Should we be looking further down the board here?
Yeah, I mean, if I wanted, and listen, Tampa and Colorado being up there, listen, they've played great and all that, but they also have championship pedigree. Yes. A lot of those guys have been deep in these, won Stanley Cups. Obviously, we know what Tampa's done. Colorado won a couple of years ago. They're always good, these teams, championship coaches. So, and, obviously Tampa's got the goalie. You don't love Colorado's goaltending as much as Tampa's, but, obviously Tampa's got that on lock. Like I said, I think Buffalo is a shot in the East if you want to go outside the top two.
Think
and I think when you look at the West, if you're just saying, let me fade Colorado, I think Dallas would probably be the team you would want to look at. Now, don't get me wrong. If the Knights all of a sudden in these next 10 days figure it out and Tortorella really lights a fire under them and they win out, sure. I mean, it's possible. Obviously, Edmonton, you can't go with Edmonton because of no Draisaitl. I mean, no Draisaitl. It's going to be hard to think that they can make a deep run. He's so important to them. So, yeah, I mean, I don't like to take favorites, so I think I would look outside of the favorites.
That's Buffalo winning the East at 13 cents, sitting right there. But three-horse race, it feels like 30 cents for Tampa, 26 for Carolina, 13 cents for I don't think we're not giving Ottawa, Boston. Nobody else is making a run here, right? It's just going to be those three.
Yeah, I mean, Montreal's good. They're good and young, but I don't know. I don't know how deep they can go. That would probably be my fourth choice. And they're playing really well at the end of the year. I think they've won 4 or 5 in a row. So, Montreal's kind of maybe peaking at the right time. They had some playoff experience last year, which I think is going to help them. So, once again, if you're looking at maybe outside the top two, want to take a shot with someone, I think my fourth choice there would be Montreal.
Yep, and listen, Tampa and Carolina are going to be likely your 1 and 2, right? So, all I need them to do is get to the Eastern Conference Finals, guys.
Yeah.
And we buy in at those prices, and we're buying low and we're selling. I don't really need them to win the Eastern Conference Final. Just need them to give me more of a return and ROI here from what we purchase and get them in on. So, but I do think they're clearly the class, and you're right. If you're going to go with anybody, I think the NHL would be beside themselves if Buffalo actually was relevant. They really would. They would absolutely love it there. So, good stuff, Art. Got a lot of fun stuff happening over the next couple of months here. Obviously, playoffs are just around the corner. What else do you have going on? What's happening over at Westgate? You still got the UFC nights, Friday nights? What's going on, Saturdays?
Yeah. Absolutely. Still rocking the UFC. Obviously, with it being on Paramount now, you get really good crowds in the book on Saturday night. I know I didn't give out any UFC information last week. It's hard when you're deep in this college basketball, and that's really the main thing. But I promise this Friday, to give out some of the sharp information for the UFC cards, which we see week in and week out. So I promise I will not forget that. And listen, this is going to be great. Once we get into the NBA and NHL playoffs, to be able to every day break down 2 or 3 playoff games in both sports, that's going to be phenomenal. Throw on top of it, obviously, all the great baseball stuff, which we love. If I start to see, and I hate to say this because I think it's terrible, if I start to see any UFL sharp action, I promise to share it. I know that league just started, which I think is abysmal, but that's a story for another day. But they do bet this stuff, so I promise if I see any UFL stuff, I'll try to throw that out there as well.
Love it, Art. Yeah, did you see that Grasso knockout? My goodness, I thought she killed her. Yeah. I thought she absolutely killed her. That was fantastic stuff there. All right, plenty of UFC still to come here as well. Art, we'll see you tomorrow. We'll get all the latest updates and all the good stuff, my man. Enjoy the rest of the day. We'll see you again here on the best betting show ever. All right, again, Art will be back again tomorrow here, giving you all the latest. In the meantime, we got a lot going on here at WagerTalk.com. Namely, first and foremost, it's $5 Tuesday, Customer Appreciation Day here at WagerTalk.com. All best bets, top plays, just $5 right now. In fact, I've got 2 of them available for you. One in Major League Baseball, one in the NBA. In fact, you can go pick up both of those right now, just $5 each over at WagerTalk.com. Make sure to take advantage of some of the great specials that they have going on right now as well. Buy 3, get 3. Of course, is a great weekend 3-day pass, all access for Major League Baseball, the triple play for $49. A lot of great ways, guys, to jump on board, partner up with us here at WagerTalk.com. And listen, there's a lot happening here over the next couple of weeks, but it's so good to have Major League Baseball back. And if you just want to dive in tonight, $5 will get you everyone's top plays and best bets on Customer Appreciation Day at WagerTalk.com. All right, let's do a couple of rundowns here for you before we close it up. We'll start, I guess, with Major League Baseball. And let's start coming up a little late afternoon. I just told you it was announced Jacob deGrom has been scheduled to go here today against Zach Eflin and the Orioles. Hopefully, we get to see a little more vintage deGrom here in this one. I'm looking forward to seeing him back on the mound, but he is getting up there in age here, but I think he's got enough. I like Texas in the first 5 in that one there. Again, I mentioned Eric Fedde pitching for the White Sox. I don't care who they're playing against. Doesn't shock me that Art said starting to see a lot of Marlins money in the marketplace there. Over as well for the Pirates and the Reds. Chandler against Williamson there. Feels like the Reds bats finally starting to figure it out. If they're not striking out, they're hitting home runs here. Feels like we're going to get some runs in that game there. Painter, the heralded rookie, going to get to the mound for the Phillies, trying to bounce back against the Nats here today. Seeing a lot of Phillies money in there. Nats bats are hot early on. Keep an eye on that one. The Blue Jays are taking on the Rockies. Max Scherzer is on the mound, going up against Feltner there. Yeah, I'm going to have to go with an over here. Don't trust Scherzer all that much these days. And the Rockies are capable of putting up a couple of runs to help us get that thing up and over. Savali versus Suarez there. Braves taking on the Athletics. I think the Athletics are a little sneaky in this one here. I would maybe look at that 1.5 in that spot. The Cubs and the Angels, Jameson Taillon versus Soriano. Taillon's been great at Wrigley Field. Cubs bounced back last night. I think they get it done at a good price here tonight. You got the Rays and the Brewers, McCallahan versus Woodruff. Yeah, I mean, I'd love to go under, except I don't know. The Rays bullpen is atrocious here. I am thinking maybe we get some runs up and over there. I think the Mets handle business against the Cards here tonight. I do like the Red Sox to bounce back against Hunter Brown. I think the Brandon Pfaadt, Casey Mize situation here for the Tigers and Diamondbacks, the number keeps rising here. This is two totally different pitchers than what we saw last night with an 80-year-old Justin Verlander. I'm looking at the under in that one. Like Max Fried and the Yankees to get one back here. I do like the Giants and Logan Webb in his second start facing German Marquez. Yeah, I'll go with the Giants here, although they did get a nice win last night And yeah, Otani at $3 over Tanner Bybee and the Guardians, likely looking at reining a run of the Dodgers in the first five. So there you go. That's your Major League Baseball rundown. A quick look here at the Final Four. And listen, I think the best way to approach the Final Four, at least the way I'm going to approach it, is figure out who it is that you like to win it all. I had a 5% play on UConn over Duke, and a big reason why was because of that championship pedigree. That's exactly what they bring to the table. I happen to think the Michigan-Arizona game might not be as good as the Illinois and UConn game is, although I think Michigan just has more ways to beat you than what Arizona does. Arizona, again, is not a great three-point shooting team. They haven't had to be. But Michigan, yeah, they got 4 players that can absolutely toss it in from outside the perimeter here. 155 three-pointers between Lendisborg, Kadu, McKinney, and Burnett. What does that mean? It means that they don't need to be in the paint to beat you. Arizona needs to be in the paint to beat you, and I don't know anybody outside of Arizona who will defend the paint better than Michigan. So Arizona's going to have to hit some shots from the outside. Not saying they're not capable, but I just think Michigan is going to be a little too much for them in that spot. But I do think this Illinois-UConn game is going to be the best one of the Final Four, and could very well be who's coming out to win the national championship. I'll have more on all of that as we get a little bit closer to the weekend here. But in the meantime, let's take a look here at the NBA here tonight. Some awful games, and I mean awful games, getting ready to take center stage. But we got some ones that actually have a little bit of juice here. The Suns and the Magic. You, not with my money, you trust the Orlando Magic. I do not. Suns on the second of a back-to-back. Do not trust the Magic after that disgusting performance against Toronto the other night. The Nets and the Hornets, you heard Art tell you a lot of over money in this game. I'm going the Hornets team total up and over in this spot. The Bucks taking on the Mavs. This would be another one. You'd be hard-pressed to get me to believe we're going to get anything except a lot of points from both these teams in this spot. Don't forget, Cooper Flagg desperately trying to get enough for that Rookie of the Year award, and Jason Kidd and others in the organization are pushing for it. So I expect the Mavs to showcase some offense here tonight. I like the over there. The Knicks and the Rockets, still don't trust the Rockets. I think the Knicks are looking to bounce back after that loss to OKC. I think they will. I do think that the Pistons, even on the second of a back-to-back, will handle the Raptors. I do believe all the guys that sat out last night, I believe Duran will go, Tobias Harris will go. You'll get some guys back in that lineup for the Pistons here tonight at home, and that should be more than enough to handle the Raptors. Lakers, I told you guys, like the Lakers, like the spot for them here with Luka back in the lineup tonight. And the Clippers and the Trailblazers. This is a 7 versus 8 currently in the play-in game if the season ended tonight. So some jockeying for position there. No Grant still for the Trailblazers. I'm not stepping in front of the Clippers here. Kawhi is on that court. They're at home. Numbers starting to come back down. It was at 6.5 this morning. It's now 5.5. I still like the LA Clippers. And that will do it here, guys, as we get ready for a monster Final Four weekend. Plenty of Major League Baseball. The playoffs will be here, both in the NBA as well as the NHL. So a lot going on. Don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Make sure you become part of that WagerTalk TV family, and make plans to come back and join us again tomorrow. Art DeCesar back. There might be a Prez sighting, from what I understand, if somebody digs him out of the avalanche that he's apparently under on the ski slopes. That would be fantastic. If not, we'll have more than enough information for you guys to make it an extremely profitable week. Take advantage of that $5 Tuesday customer appreciation opportunity here over at WagerTalk.com. One NBA, one Major League Baseball play, $5 each. Go grab them, guys. No reason not to make it a profitable Tuesday. And on behalf of Art to Caesar and Company. We appreciate it, guys. As always, enjoy the games here tonight and come by and see us again tomorrow for another edition of the best betting show ever. Have a good one, guys.